You look at a rage room and see the ultimate business arbitrage. You buy a box of worthless, discarded junk for $5, hand a stressed-out middle manager a baseball bat, and charge them $65 for 20 minutes of primal therapy. It looks like pure, high-margin entertainment with zero inventory spoilage. You are completely wrong. You aren't in the entertainment business. You are in the highly regulated, heavily penalized commercial waste management sector. Once you factor in $650 commercial tipping fees, $28,000 in liability premiums, and hazardous waste surcharges, your actual net profit on that $65 ticket is exactly $9.20. This is not a gold mine. It is a logistical meat grinder. Let us tear down the profit and loss statement of a modern smash room. We will strip away the neon lights, the viral TikToks, and the adrenaline. We are going to look at exactly where the money bleeds out, from the surface illusions to the underground nightmares, and finally, to the brutal future of your cash flow. First, let's examine the input nightmare. You need volume to survive. A single customer in a 20-minute session will absolutely obliterate 30 glass bottles, 2 keyboards, a landline telephone, and a desktop printer. Now, multiply that by 150 sessions a week. That is 4,500 bottles, 300 keyboards, and 150 printers. Every single week. You cannot just raid local dumpsters behind restaurants. You need an industrial-scale, reliable supply chain for garbage. You contract with e-waste liquidators, hotel liquidation firms, and thrift store overflow centers. You buy pallets of defunct electronics. But here's your first hidden tax: sorting, transportation, and dead inventory. You rent a 16-foot box truck. That is $120 a day. You pay for diesel. You pay 2 employees $18 an hour just to load and unload it. You have to lease extra warehouse square footage simply to store this junk before it gets broken. Then comes the inventory spoilage. Yes, garbage spoils. You buy a wrapped pallet of office electronics for $150. You unwrap it and find that 30% of it is unsmashable. Soft plastics that just bounce when hit. Rubberized casing. Defunct laptops with lithium-ion batteries that will explode into a toxic chemical fire if a customer hits them with a sledgehammer. You cannot put these in the smash room. So, what happens? You just paid money to acquire trash, and now you have to pay a commercial landfill to take it away. Your raw materials are taxing you twice without ever generating a single dime of revenue. Then there is the regulatory landmine. CRT televisions and older monitors. You think they are fantastic, explosive targets. The Environmental Protection Agency disagrees. A single CRT monitor contains 4 to 8 pounds of lead, alongside cadmium and beryllium. When your customer smashes it, they aerosolize heavy metals. If you throw that shattered toxic waste into a standard commercial dumpster, the municipal sanitation department will eventually audit your bin. They will trace it back to you. They will slap you with a $2,500 illegal dumping fine per offense. So you have to separate it. You pay specialized hazmat teams $3.50 per pound to take the toxic debris away. Your free junk just cost you $14 to dispose of, wiping out nearly a quarter of the session's revenue before the customer even steps into the room. Next, we have to look at the capital expenditure black hole. You cannot open a rage room in a standard retail plaza or a suburban strip mall. The acoustic profile exceeds 85 decibels. The zoning board categorizes you under industrial amusement, or worse, a waste processing facility. You are banished to the industrial parks on the outskirts of town. You sign a lease on a 3,500 square foot warehouse at $15 per square foot annually. That is $4,375 a month. It is a triple net lease. You are paying for property taxes, building insurance, and roof maintenance on top of the base rent. Then comes the capital expenditure for the build-out. Standard drywall. A crowbar goes through it in 3 seconds. You must sheath every wall in 3/4 inch CDX plywood. That is $45 a sheet. You need 300 of them. You need heavy-duty rubberized flooring to absorb the shock of sledgehammers and protect the concrete slab underneath. That is $14,000 for the mats alone. But the real capital expenditure is invisible. It is in the air. When a customer shatters a ceramic toilet or a glass bottle, it creates silica dust, microscopic, razor-sharp particles that float in the room. If your employees inhale this for 6 months, they develop silicosis. If you do not mitigate it, OSHA shuts you down, and workers' compensation lawsuits will permanently bankrupt you. You must install industrial-grade HVAC scrubbers with HEPA filtration. A proper, high-capacity air turnover system costs $25,000 to install, and it burns through $180 worth of specialized contaminated filters every 10 days. Your total capital expenditure before you even open the doors? $135,000. Not exactly the empty room and a bat you originally envisioned. Once the bunker is built, you enter the operational Meatgrinder. You are open for business. A session ends. The heavy door opens. You have exactly 10 minutes before the next booking. Look at the floor. It is a minefield. Jagged glass, splintered plastic, exposed copper wire, and toxic printer toner are mixed into a lethal paste. You need 2 employees working at maximum physical exertion to clear it. Labor costs here are not minimum wage. You cannot pay a teenager $12 an hour for this. You have to pay $18 to $22 an hour because this is grueling, hazardous physical labor. They shovel 60 pounds of debris. They sweep. They mop the micro dust. They reset the targets. If they are 5 minutes late, your entire daily schedule cascades into chaos. Customers in the lobby get angry. You end up handing out 50% refunds to a corporate team building group because their session started 20 minutes late. Let's talk about your tools. You buy cheap wooden baseball bats for $25. They snap at the handle after 3 sessions. You switch to aluminum bats for $40. They dent, bend, and eventually crack under the sheer kinetic force of hitting solid steel appliances. Sledgehammer handles splinter. Crowbars bend. Your tool replacement budget isn't a one-time startup cost. It is a recurring operational expense of $450 a month. Then there is the personal protective equipment. Face shields get scratched by flying glass shards. After a week, they are too foggy and opaque to see through safely. Heavy-duty coveralls tear at the seams. Leather welding gloves get sliced by ceramics. You are spending a hidden $3.80 per customer just on the rapid depreciation of safety gear. Beyond daily operations, you face the liability mirage and the platform tax. You think a waiver protects you. It does not. A liability waiver is a piece of paper that discourages cheap lawsuits. It does absolutely nothing to protect you from a gross negligence claim. If a customer takes a splinter of fiberglass to the eye because you handed them a scratched, degraded face shield, you are going to court. The insurance underwriters know this. You are entirely uninsurable by standard commercial carriers. You have to go to the excess and surplus market. Your general liability and workers' compensation premiums will run you $2,500 to $3,200 a month. And the deductible is $10,000. You are paying premium rates for catastrophic coverage that you pray you never use, while paying out of pocket for any minor injuries. Next, add the software tax. You use booking platforms to manage your calendar. They take a 6% cut of every transaction. Then add standard credit card processing fees of 2.9% plus 30 cents. Almost 10% of your gross revenue is siphoned off by software companies in Silicon Valley before a single dollar hits your local bank account. And do not forget bad debt. A customer gets tired after 5 minutes, leaves early, and initiates a credit card chargeback, claiming the experience was not as described. You lose the $65 revenue, you lose the inventory they smashed, and the payment processor slaps you with a $15 chargeback penalty fee. Then comes the silent killer, the inescapable physics of trash. Here's the ultimate paradox of the rage room economy. When an old printer is intact, an e-waste facility might take it for free to strip the copper, aluminum, and gold boards. When glass bottles are whole, they are easily recycled by municipal services. But once your customer pays you to smash them together, you have created a nightmare material. It is a contaminated, unsortable aggregate of plastic, glass, metal, and toxic dust. No recycling center on Earth will touch it. It must go directly to a commercial landfill. You rent commercial 20-yard roll-off dumpsters. But you run into the physics of weight versus volume. You pay for the volume, but municipal dumps charge overweight fees. Broken glass and shattered metal are incredibly dense. Your dumpster might only be half full visually, but it already weighs 3 tons. If you go over the weight limit, the hauling company charges you an $85 per ton overage fee. In a moderately busy week, operating at 60% capacity, you require 1 dumpster pull every 4 days. A standard pull costs $650. Do the math. That is 7.5 dumpster pulls a month. You are spending $4,875 a month in pure waste disposal fees. The more successful you are, the faster you drown in your own trash. Revenue scales linearly with bookings, but waste disposal costs scale exponentially as you run out of on-site storage space and require emergency weekend dumpster pickups at a 50% premium surcharge. Now let's combine all of these factors and ruthlessly dissect a high-performing month. You are doing everything right. You are fully booked on Friday nights and weekends. You run 450 sessions at an average ticket price of $65. Your gross revenue sits at $29,250. It looks beautiful on paper. Now, apply the scalpel. First, rent and utilities bleed you for $5,200. This includes your triple net lease and the massive electrical load required to run industrial HVAC scrubbers. Next comes labor. You are paying your employees for 240 hours of hazardous physical exertion. That is $4,800 gone. Then comes the silent killer, waste disposal. 8 commercial dumpster pulls plus overweight fees wipe out another $5,200. Insurance premiums in the excess and surplus market claim $2,800. Inventory sourcing, truck rentals, and warehouse overflow cost you $2,100. The rapid depreciation of tools and protective equipment costs you exactly $3.80 per customer, which totals $1,710. Silicon Valley takes its cut, with booking platforms and merchant fees siphoning off $2,632. Finally, you have to pay the debt service on that $135,000 capital expenditure loan. That is another $2,400 out the door. Your total operating expenses hit $26,842. Your net profit is $2,408. Your net margin is a fragile 8.2%. You invested over $100,000, signed a multi-year commercial lease, and assumed massive physical and legal liability to make the equivalent of a part-time shift manager's salary. One serious injury, one lawsuit that breaches your insurance cap, one failed HVAC compressor, or one EPA violation for improper disposal of heavy metals, and that razor-thin margin entirely evaporates into catastrophic debt. Finally, here is the brutal truth about this industry. The revenue chart of a rage room is a deceptive siren song. It spikes aggressively on Friday nights and weekends, creating a powerful illusion of massive, flowing cash. But underneath that top-line vanity metric is a brutal, unyielding, fixed-cost structure, driven entirely by the inescapable physics of trash. Ultimately, the survival of a rage room does not depend on marketing. It does not depend on the price of a ticket, the coolness of your neon lighting, or the virality of your slow-motion TikTok videos. It comes down to one single, ruthless factor: waste efficiency. The operators who go bankrupt are the ones who think they are in the business of selling a cathartic experience. They focus on customer vibes, playlists, and aesthetics, while they quietly drown in commercial tipping fees, unsmashable dead inventory, and logistical bottlenecks. The operators who survive understand the cold, hard reality of the math. They act as militant waste logistics managers. They build localized, zero-cost supply chains for non-toxic inventory. They negotiate bulk commercial volume rates with local landfills. They obsessively calculate the weight-to-volume ratio of their daily debris, ensuring they maximize every inch of a dumpster before paying for a pull. In the business of destruction, the profit isn't in the breaking. It is entirely in the cleanup.